Hey you guys, it is your girl AP and welcome back to my channel. Hey you guys, I know it's been some time, but as I stated in my last video, life be lifing, so I'm going to create content as I just make the time for it because I got a whole life, okay? And I've been exhausted, and that's actually the topic of this video because we're going to dive right into vitamin deficiencies post-duodenal switch. A few months ago, someone actually asked me to share my vitamin regimen. So I did. I shared the vitamins that I had been taking up until that point. Shortly after that video, my vitamin regimen changed. Some adjustments were made. I was going through it, y'all, with thyroid and so on and so forth, because malabsorption that occurs with duodenal switch is really, really severe. And it's something that I hope if you are considering duodenal switch that you truly understand what that means for you, because absorption affects every facet of what you orally ingest, including your medication. So at any rate, I started on a regimen of bariatric friendly vitamins. So taking a multivitamin, additional vitamin A, vitamin D. I did not take vitamin E because at the point in time, there was nothing that indicated I needed to. Some vitamin K, and as well as magnesium and vitamin D because I think I mentioned vitamin D already, but magnesium helps with the absorption of calcium, which I'm also taking. And it can also help with, digestion. Well, numbers were skewed for a little bit because I was in hyperthyroid mode. So for those who don't know, I don't have a thyroid anymore. It was removed in 2017 due to an enlarged goiter and Hashimoto's. So my thyroid hormone is purely regulated by medication. And I take something called Deficient, which is a synthetic form of the thyroid hormone your body would naturally produce. I don't recall if I shared that whole nightmare on here, but just a brief recap. Basically, my endocrinologist at the time, because now I have a new one, wasn't titrating my medication fast enough to keep up with the rapid weight loss my body was going through. So the dosage was too high for my body, and it put me in hyperthyroid mode, which is when if I had a thyroid, I would be what would be considered an overactive thyroid. The symptoms were awful, and it just so happened that at that time that's when I dabbled in Wegovy, that nightmare. So everything kind of like blew up all at once, and at first I thought everything was Wegovy related. As it turns out, it was thyroid medication related. So after weeks of horrifying, and I do mean horrifying symptoms, I finally just stopped taking my medication altogether because I couldn't take it. My eyes were in pain. I passed out. All these things were going on. I was able to get a new endocrinologist in the process, and in the interim between me seeing the new endocrinologist, my primary care was willing to step in and lower the dosage down as low as she possibly could go at that point, and that was 75 micrograms. But as it turns out, that was too low. So by the time I went for a checkup, my TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone, was a 24. Y'all, your thyroid hormone should be between like 1 and 4, ideally. So that lets you know it's extremely high. So that point, I was no longer hyper, I was hypo, which would indicate an underactive thyroid. And that comes with its own set of symptoms, including exhaustion, anemia, joint pain, you name it, a whole lot of misery. So about a couple of weeks ago, they upped my dosage, but she also recommended I try the soluble because her concern is that perhaps the way my body is absorbing the medication might be different. So now I will be taking Deficient in a liquid form where I'll have to break it open and pour it in a bottle of water and take it that way. So this gets to my next point, which is lab results. I got some lab results back today. And I had a full panel of everything. So a metabolic panel, vitamin panels, the whole 9 yards, just to make sure that everything was functioning okay. And is it okay? Barely. So on the good news is my TSH is down to a 15, which is better because the last time it was a 28. So it indicates that over the last 2.5 weeks, the dosage increase is doing its job. But I can't get a real picture of what my TSH looks like until I'm not due for TSH labs really until about 2 months from now. My surgeon's office just ran it just because she was like, let's just get a whole overview of what you've got going on. But now let's move on to the vitamin aspect of things. Vitamin K was low, which is really surprising to me because I switched to a vitamin K supplement in addition to a multivitamin. So I'm kind of surprised there. So she put in an order for a 7-day prescription that I'm waiting to be filled, and we'll see what goes on there. I also was vitamin E deficient, and I'd never been before. So yeah, I will now be starting on over-the-counter. She told me to start with 400 IUs of vitamin E, so that will be getting added to the multivitamin regimen. What else? My vitamin A was fine. Potassium was fine. I did see that, okay, my anemia is just out of pocket, but it's so confusing because my ferritin is within range, but it's lower than what it was before. But back during my hyperthyroid stage, it was sky high. However, my iron and my iron saturation are completely normal, but my hemoglobin, my RBC count, my hematocrit, and my MCHC values are all low, which would indicate anemia. This could have several different causes. It could be the lower ferritin is causing my blood cells to work harder. I may just have a different form of anemia that's not iron related, because the last time my hematologist didn't even want me to get another iron infusion because I was getting them because he's like, your iron saturation is too high, and your iron levels are too high. So I'll be curious to see what he has to say about it. I shot his office a message today. Liver function, kidney function, chloride were all flagged because they were too high. Now, there could be a couple of things going on. I can possibly be going into acute kidney distress, although the doctor does not believe that's what it is. She simply believes that I am dehydrated. Like, I'm not drinking enough water, apparently. So I was always told 64 ounces of water is the goal. And so I think I'm stuck to that just a little bit too much, because you should really be drinking enough water that's adequate for your activity and the things that you've got going on, and to also counterbalance if you're a caffeine consumer, which I am. I do drink coffees with protein in them. However, I'm drinking anywhere between 3 16.9 ounces bottles, 3 to 4 bottles a day. So if I reach for it, that is 64 ounces. If I don't, well, then it's not 64 ounces. For the most part, I would say I do 64 ounces a day, but I have moments where I know I haven't drunk enough water. So my blood work was very telling. So now we have to increase my water consumption, which it feels like it takes me all day to do the 4 bottles that I have now. So I don't know where I'm fitting in more. All my cholesterol was low. Bad cholesterol, or what they call bad cholesterol, the good cholesterol, the HDL, was low. So on the whole, my cholesterol was low. And with DS, your ability to absorb fat is different. Like, you can't really, so you have to. So if you ever get a surgeon that tells you need to go low fat in your DS, do not listen to them. You don't want to play around with fat consumption as a DS patient, because we only absorb about 20% of what we eat and even less of the fat. So use the butter, eat the mayo, olive oils, avocado, you name it, the cheese, because you need it. And your brain needs fat to survive. So my husband has decided of his own volition that I'm being prescribed 1 avocado a day to eat to increase my good fats. I think sometimes that I'm doing okay and I'm doing decent. And then my lab results just humble me quickly. So on a whole, my lab work is not great across the board. It's not so terrible that they don't think it can be repaired. Like, I have good parts and I have bad parts. I would like to get to a point where everything is just kind of even killed. And it feels like it's been a while since that's occurred. And I know part of that is impacted by thyroid health. Your thyroid is the powerhouse of the body. So if that is off, even in synthetic form, it could throw everything else off. And I'm not sure if that's what's going on. But I have been extremely fatigued. My hands have been hurting. I do have arthritis in my body. But also recently just learned that vitamin E deficiency can, trigger inflammation in the body. And I wonder if that, coupled with what's going on with my thyroid levels, is bringing some of these symptoms on. I hate brain fog. And if you're an autoimmune warrior, you know what time it is with brain fog. The only thing they didn't check was TPO antibodies, and I had those checked probably about 8 months ago, and they were like almost non-existent. And the TPO antibodies are what they check for the Hashimoto's autoimmune disease, which is what I was diagnosed with before. So I don't think those are back up, but I probably will ask to be tested just to ensure that. But yeah, it's more work for me to do, but it's also what I signed on for when I agreed to have a life-altering surgery. And this is really the part that I want to get to. There are benefits, and I will always say this openly, honestly, there are benefits to bariatric surgery, and there are benefits to the DS surgery. The ability to lose the most amount of weight and maintain that weight loss long term, though statistically speaking, it has better outcomes than, say, VSG or gastric bypass. But knowing the difference in how you absorb, how much you eat, how much nutrients you're able to absorb is really important, and how much of the vitamins you'll have to take is really important, because it is different than the other surgeries. You have to be able to afford it, and you have to be able to be committed to it, and you have to be disciplined about it. And even me feeling as if I'm as disciplined as I can be, because I'm not missing vitamins or anything like that. There are factors and other facets of my health that impact how these things occur. So I have to be vigilant about paying attention to the cues and symptoms my body is giving me, but also routinely and regularly getting those lab works done every 3 months. Between my PCP, my surgeon's office, and hematology and endocrinologist, I'm getting blood work all the time. Almost, it feels like every other month, but I'd rather be overly poked and prodded and staying on top of things than I would to be hit with any surprises, because I want to catch the trends early enough where we can make changes as necessary. One of the things about being malnourished or nutritionally deficient is it requires you to eat. And when I still have to break that mindset of wanting to consider how many calories I consume in a day. As a DS patient, you literally do not count your calories because we malabsorb so much. We're counting macros, so to speak. Like, we need to be making sure we're hitting a certain amount of protein, which, by the way, my protein was within range, and so was my albumin, but it could stand to be higher. It's higher than it was last time, which I'm glad about, but I need to get it up more, which means I need to be eating more protein during the day. And that in itself, like I was going with the point of counting calories, I've been conditioned my entire life to not eat over a certain amount of calories. As a DS patient, like, I can't focus on that. Like, I have to eat, and I have to eat every few hours, and it needs to be protein dense. When sometimes I don't want the protein, sometimes I want a good salad. You know what I mean? I want just fresh vegetables. I want just fruit. But nutritionally, those things are good, but I have to do protein first. And so it's a constant discipline. Can I say that I have faithfully done that every day? No, for the most part I have, but I definitely have days where I'm just like, oh, I'm eating the fruit salad first. And that might be more harmful than good, to be quite honest, because then I've eaten the fruit, now I'm full, and not that fruit doesn't have nutritional value, but my body really needs the protein. So having to change my relationship with food and how I am eating based upon or versus, what you get told your entire life from diet culture has been a ride. It's been a ride. So yeah, as of August 20th, which is 2 days ago at this point, I hit my 2-year mark. I am officially 2 years post-op. And while I would say overall, this has been an amazing journey. I've talked about it here. It led to my hip replacement. It's led to my mobility and just living and being able to thrive in a way I haven't been in a long time. It's not some fairy tale that fixes everything, because you still have to care for your health on all fronts, which, by the way, how about my A1C is dumb low all the time. And today it was even lower than what it was when I was fasting. So I'm sure that's being impacted by anemia. And it's a crazy position to be in, because when you're larger, they're always worried about your A1C being too high because they're worried about diabetes. And for the first time in my life, like, they're looking at glucose levels, because even my fasting glucose was low. They're like, you got to eat more of this, that, and the third. And it's, again, like, all my life, y'all been telling me not to eat the this and the that. And now you're telling me the opposite. It messes with the mind. Even with these minor setbacks, I am pleased with this journey thus far. It is my goal to continue to be, advantageous in pursuit of my health, making sure I'm just getting the vitamins that I need, and going to increase my water intake and try to eat more throughout the day and see what happens when it's time to get my next to the labs. But as of now, that's the updates that I have. So if you are considering DS, like, just keep these things in the forefront of your mind about potential things you might encounter if you decide to take that journey. As always, guys, I'm an open book. Please feel free to leave your questions if you have videos on specific topics you want made in reference to any of these things. Feel free to drop your comment down below, and always keep it respectful in the comments. I'm here to educate as I'm being educated, and I hope that this information is helpful if you're just looking for someone to connect with in terms of the experience, or if it's something that you're considering. Until next time, you guys. Bye.